Hello, Conversation 3 students. Welcome back to the internet where we were originally at the start of the semester, but the coronavirus cases continue to go down. So we're back in the classroom next week. The only reason I'm recording this lecture is because we had midterm exams, as you know. And I didn't want to lose 2 weeks of lectures, so on Monday, a few days ago, we finished those interviews, and this is the delayed recording. I'm sorry for not uploading it on Monday, but yeah, I have a lot of classes, and it was midterm overload, so I wasn't able to record this on Sunday properly. So here we are. Let me say I have to process all of the grades from your tests, but as usual, this is level 3 conversation, and the interviews were very well done for the most part. So what can I say? There's going to be some important differences, but sometimes small differences between A's and B's and B's and C's. So I think it'll take me a couple weeks to sort out exactly the scores and then email you to let you know. We just finished 2 days ago. So over this weekend, I'll attempt to get the grades recorded. And then I will have to give you each your feedback. So be patient and wait for that. Today, we are going to continue in the textbook and do chapter 7. We are going to do presentations in the next month. So this is week 9. Week 10 is next Monday, and we'll set the schedule for that. But other than that, basically you just have to prepare your presentation and participate in the class and follow the topics week by week. And then it'll be June, and we'll be doing exams. Okay, so chapter 7 is called Spending and Saving. I've adjusted the title to just finances because I'm going to give you, basically today I'm just going to explain some vocabulary, and I'm going to talk to you about different aspects of managing money. I think this lecture is probably the most practical one, and maybe the most important the most important topic that we will discuss. I think the nature topic, for example, was a very important one. Some people talked about the environment and about saving species and ecosystems and etc. So there were some great answers for that question, because that's, of course, the environment. If we don't have an environment that is healthy, then we won't have a good life. Similarly, if you're not very good at managing your money, you're going to have a lot of difficulty in today's society. So the problem is that if you're an English literature major, as most of you are, that if you don't take any class, even if you're a commerce major, even if you're a business administration major or Asia business major, whatever, even if you're in the School of Business or economics, that doesn't mean that you're going to manage your own personal finances well. If you become a stockbroker or you become an accountant, yes, you're going to be able to manage your own money pretty well. But the accounting and the measurement of money doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be able to balance your own behavior, because what happens with money is you use the money for the things that you want, and you have to, if you really want something that costs money, then you're going to have to make some sort of plan. You're going to have to save, and rather than just whenever money comes within your grasp, you use it for something without preparing yourself or looking to the future. So generally, I think some of these behaviors are difficult for university students because your parents are supporting you, probably you're getting scholarships maybe, or you have a part-time job, and this money is kind of coming in and going out, maybe month by month, maybe semester by semester, but you're really not thinking 5 years ahead or 10 years ahead. But you should. Maybe not when you're a freshman, but as you get closer to graduation, some of you are seniors, some of you are juniors or seniors, and you have 1 or 2 years left, and then you're going to hopefully find a job quickly, or I mean, you don't have to, but if you want to support yourself, you find a job, and then you're going to have money coming in, and what you want to do is take some of that money and make sure that it can grow and make sure that it can be used later. That's called saving, right? Saving is a very difficult thing. It's a more difficult thing in our current situation because we have a bad combination of stagnant wages. Now, I'm talking about, now remember, I'm an English professor. I'm talking about these things not as a scholar of economics or finance, but as an adult who is talking in English about, ideas about saving and spending money, okay? So this is not a professional counseling session about money. This is just discussion of what these words mean and suggestions, or perhaps in some cases warnings to you about what you should think about and what you should be worried about in terms of your financial future. Okay, this is I think a very beneficial thing, and if you have any questions about what I'm saying or my experience, I would be happy to answer your questions next week in class. Okay, so first of all, we have stagnant wages. Okay? Stagnation means that something's not growing. Just like we call stagnant water is water that's not flowing. So stagnant wages means that the salary, the money that people are making is not going up. It's flat. Okay? Now, I'm not saying it's completely flat, but I'm just saying wages are not growing very quickly. But other things are. So we have something called inflation happening, especially this year, because of multiple things. One of those things is the coronavirus, right, which is disrupting international trade. So the supply chains, everything's moving slower, everything's being produced, less production because so many people got sick, and there's lockdowns, so like there's less consumption, there's less production, less things being made, less things being bought, and the whole supply chain is getting all snarled. So it makes it difficult for things to come to you cheaply. So this causes an increase in cost, right? You usually, I think Korea's target inflation is 2%, okay? That the average price of things in the market would go up 2%, but this year I should put the bracket around 2%, but I'm just going on by what I see in the news, but something like 8% across, and you may have noticed already that the cost of certain things is already going up. I've noticed milk and eggs and soda and beer, all right, are going up by increments, right? So if you pay, the typical amount for a chocolate bar is chunwon, right? This is an easy measurement of whether things are being inflated. Don't be surprised if, a chocolate bar was chunwon last year and this year suddenly it's chun baegwon, there it is. That's the increase in cost, right? Now, if our wages don't go up and inflation causes costs to go up, the price of things goes up, that means that it's harder for us, to buy everything. So inflation is something that happens when the economy grows. It's natural. It didn't happen in the past as much because hundreds of years ago, prices were very stable and the economy was not growing. But when an economy grows significantly, naturally people have more money, and this causes an increase in the cost of things. From my British and American culture class, if any of you are in that one, I talk about, there was a massive inflation of prices in Europe when the Spanish conquered the New World, and they brought back gold and silver, and suddenly the supply of precious metal, which was used to make coins, was doubled and tripled and quadrupled, and eventually the Spanish brought so much silver that there was 5 times more silver in circulation. This means that people have more money, so they can pay more when they want something, then the price is going to inflate. And like you can have super inflation, which gets out of control. It can be very damaging to the economy. When things cost crazy amounts of money, all of a sudden your money isn't worth very much anymore. So it's something that we have to, it's a negative factor. When inflation goes up higher, the value of the money decreases and the cost of things increase. So things that you have are worth more money, but you have less spending power. So this is your income. Income is obviously how much money you're bringing in. As a student, you're probably not bringing in very much. One of the things that's very closely tied to income is income tax. So the typical way for the government to get money from you is to take some money from how much you make. Your salary automatically has an income tax deduction. Some countries have very high income tax, some countries have low. There's pros and cons about that, but in Korea it's kind of in the middle. If you have a country that has a really high cost government services, like free healthcare and social services and assistance to the poor and military spending, etc., like some place like Sweden or Finland or Denmark, those are kind of socialist governments, then your income tax is going to be very high. We have one student from Germany, maybe, I'm not sure where Germany falls along the spectrum, but Canada's relatively, it's on the moderate to high end, but some of the Northern European countries are on the higher end. And they do that because they're using that tax, they're supposed to be using this tax to help people, society function better. That's why it's called a socialist democracy. Revenue is the total amount of money that comes in from all sources. That might include you buying various things that give you money, owning things. These are investments. You put your money and you buy them, and those things, if your investment is a good investment, they bring in money too. This provides you with other kind of revenue. Sometimes we call these revenue streams, which means I have some money in the bank, I have some bonds, I have some stocks, I have an apartment which I'm renting to somebody else, and I bring these sources of money come in. These are revenue streams, right? I own a business, right? I own a shop, I own a store, and the store makes a certain amount of money because they're, I don't know, what are they selling? Clothes? A clothing store. I have a clothing store, and this brings in money. I have a salary, I'm working, I have my own business. These are ways of bringing money. This is called revenue. And revenue is the total amount of money that you get from all sources, right? So this is what revenue means. An investment is putting your money in certain places. You can lose money, of course, or you can make money. So a good investment is one that adds to your revenue, and a bad investment is one that causes you to lose, right? So when you make the decision, you have to think about the risk. Is it a lot of money that you're going to get? Is it a small amount of money? Is there a chance that you're going to lose money? Like, what is the dynamic here? We say in English, high risk, high reward, right? So you take a big chance, you get a lot of money, but you also might lose everything. Do you want to do that, or do you want to like put your money in the bank and just get a small amount of money that's guaranteed? These are opposites. So, for example, a savings account that you open at the bank, you might get 1%, 2%, 3%, whatever. Used to be better, but nowadays the interest rate is low. We'll just say 3%. You put your money in there, and that's going to come back to you for sure. You're going to get all your money back plus 3%. If you decide to buy Bitcoin, you might get your money back, or you might get your money plus 20%, or you might get double your money, or it might go down 80% and you might lose most of your money. This is a high risk investment, but there's a potential for it to go up as well. This is called risk assessment. And when you work on your finances, when you start to get some money from whatever it is, wherever you got the money from your parents, from your job, from, I don't know, maybe inheritance or a gift or the lottery. It doesn't really matter where you got your money from, but once you have some money to work with, like, what are you going to do with it? You have to probably be careful, use some low risk, do some low risk investment for sure to make sure you don't lose all your money and you have some money for yourself. And if you want to, make some money faster, maybe you're going to think about Bitcoin or funds or stocks, which can generate a lot more revenue, but also carry with it some risks. And it's also about, of course, timing, right? If you buy a stock, you shouldn't think that I'm going to buy the stock today and then next week I'm going to sell it and I'm going to make 10%. That's ridiculous. If you're a professional stockbroker and you're studying all the information and you know how the market is behaving and you can, make those kind of decisions, that's fine. But I don't think any of us are professional stock traders. So if you're not a professional, if you want to buy a stock, you probably want to choose a more stable stock, something like a blue chip stock, something that over time has proven to be a stable stock. That's usually a big company like Samsung or LG or Hyundai or something like that. And like over time it goes up and down, but generally over time it's going to go up. So if you buy it now, if you believe that the company has a good future and it's stable, if you buy that stock and you wait 5 years, it's not going to matter what happens next week. It's not going to matter what happens next month. 5 years later, it's going to be up, whatever, 40%, we'll say. Hopefully. I'm not saying buy Samsung or LG. I'm just saying those are blue chip stocks. Those are blue chip stocks. So you don't expect them to crash. So they may not go up. They may go in 5 years. They might be down. Nobody knows. But usually when you buy stocks that are stable and reliable and large companies, that they're slowly trending upwards, and you can collect at some point over the next 5 years, you can sell it. But you shouldn't be under pressure to sell it, because 3 years later it might be down, 4 years later up, and so on. So you want to be able to like sell it when you want to. And the other thing about stocks is some stocks have dividends. Some stocks give you, when they make a profit every year, they pay you as a stockholder, they pay you a little bit of money. So here's an example. I have 2 stocks that I bought 10 years ago, and unfortunately those stocks have not gone up, even though I bought them 10 years ago. I expect them to go up quickly, but I was stupid about that. I looked at the short term and I bought them and they went down, okay? And then they slowly went up, but they still haven't come up. I've still lost money on buying those stocks. However, both of those stocks pay a dividend. So every March, every beginning of April, end of March, last month, beginning of April, they calculate, even though the stock price has not increased, recovered from 10 years ago, the company still exists and the stock still pays a dividend. So every April, I kind of laugh every April, and when I see I have my 2 stocks, not 2 stocks, but 2 companies, and I have a bunch of stocks from each one, and I get a text message and it says, 3만 5천, and 4만 원. It's pretty much the same amount from the 2 stocks I bought every year, and they pay me a dividend for 10 years. I bought these stocks it's 11 years, 2011. I bought these stocks, and I haven't sold them because the stock price, I'm hoping the stock price will someday go up, but they still are just bouncing around. So I haven't sold them. I've just been keeping them, and every year I get this, 7만 5천, which for those of you who don't speak Korean, like Catherine, 75,000 won. It's only like 60 euro or 50 euro. But every year I get it, and I don't think about it. So when I get it, I'm like, I smile. I'm like, there's my savings account. So, this is something you need to consider when you buy a stock, is that you might get a yearly sort of payout from the company. Okay. Credit cards. Let's talk about credit cards, because has right in the picture on page 78, there's a credit card. So you can I'm talking about things sort of just to give you some basic knowledge about different financial decisions. But when we talk about this topic next week, and when you answer this question on the exam, you can talk about any aspect you want, right? We have other options. Let's just talk about the other investment options here. For example, you can buy commodities like gold or oil or something like that. Resources, those are called commodities. There's this new thing called NFTs, which is like a digital, property related to anything. It can be related to art, it can be related to shoes, it can be related to poetry, it can be related to a video, and the possession of that NFT means that you have a digital sort of representation. It's a non-fungible token. So this is a digital representation of your ownership of something, whatever it is. So it particularly makes sense, like when it comes to art, that you would have some sort of representation that would signify your ownership of a certain thing. So it's kind of like cryptocurrency, in that cryptocurrency is just a digital representation of money, right? And NFTs are just a digital representation of an object or a piece of, even it can be like a non-physical thing, because money itself isn't a physical thing. We have physical representations of money, which is cash, but money itself is just ethereal. And we agree that people have money and we keep track of it in the bank accounts, but it's all digital already. So similarly, NFTs keep track of the possession of valuable things. I know it's a difficult concept, but that's the best way to explain it. If you look it up in Korean, you'll probably be similarly confused. If you're confused in English, it's probably going to be the same thing in Korean anyway. Now we've covered all those investment things. These are kind of things you have to consider once you have money. But if you don't have very much money, maybe one of the most important things you can do is just control your spending rather than the investment and savings part, which will probably become more important to you when you make more money, when you have more money. But right now, maybe the most important thing for you is to manage the money that you have and to control how much money is going out. Not manage what you have, but try to prevent what you have from leaving as fast as possible. That was the thing I learned in university. I had a part-time job in the summer. I had a summer job, and I had bad spending habits, and I got scholarships, and I borrowed money from the bank, and it still wasn't enough. All of the money that I ever made in my life, which was a lot, I'm not going to say it on YouTube, but in the class I can tell you how much money I was making. But when I finished university, I was, negative $15,000. So despite the fact that I worked all the time and I got scholarships and I borrowed money, it still wasn't enough. And the reason for that was the primary reason was not because I didn't have enough money, but because I spent the money unwisely. So there's these things you have to consider. You have subscriptions. Having a phone is a kind of subscription. It's a monthly fee. So you agree, when you have your Samsung or your Apple phone or whatever phone it is, you make an agreement with LG or KT or SK, or in Canada it's Rogers or Bell or TELUS or whatever. You monthly pay some money so that you can use this service. The service is your 5G smartphone, being able to access it, and you have a data plan, you have a certain amount of calls or all these variations, and you pay a certain amount of money. That's a kind of subscription because it repeats itself. And then you have applications. You might have, in my case, I have a YouTube Premium application that I subscribe to. I have a Google subscription. I have an Apple iCloud subscription. Some of these are related to, my job, but I pay for them myself. And Netflix. And I have a subscription to Audible. Audible is a audiobook application, which you have to pay for every month. I might be missing a few. I've got more than 5 anyway, 5, 6, 7. This is like a negative revenue stream. This is like your subscription thing is like sucking money out of your bank account. Your revenue streams put money in, and the subscriptions pull it out, and you got to keep track of them and know how much. That's what budgeting is. You have a household budget, which means you got to pay your utility bills, right? Utility bills for your electricity, your gas, your internet, your water. You got to pay your utility bills. You got to pay your rent. If you're renting, if you're not renting, then you have to pay property tax. I own my apartment, but twice a year I get a bill that says you got to pay this amount, and it always shocks me because I forget. Yeah, you don't pay rent when you own an apartment or a house, but you still owe money for living there. The government still collects it, and they don't collect it every month like rent does, or they don't collect it every 2 years like a chunse. They every 6 months they send you a bill, and it just comes out of nowhere and like slaps you in the face and says, "Here, give me a big chunk of money." And you're like, "Oh no, I wonder if my bank account has the money to cover this." So these are things you got to consider. In entertainment, I didn't put food, transportation, bus, subway, taxi, car, scooter. The best way is feet. Use your legs. That's the best kind of transportation because it's free and it gives you exercise, obviously. You manage all these things, and if you manage them well, then you don't need to have as much money because you're spending less. So it's all about, the gap between what comes in and what you spend. That's what you have to be careful of. I just tried to I just didn't control my spending and just tried to make more and more money. It didn't work. I had to come to Korea, and when I came to Korea, I was on a very tight budget. I had no money. I had to pay the bank back in Canada, so I just had to be very careful and spend as little as possible. And for 2.5 years, I did that, and I paid everything back. And then suddenly, I was on this side of the board where I bought my first fund. I invested my first fund. I opened a savings account. I have a checking account, like a regular account, and I opened the savings account and put money in that. And I invested in a fund, which didn't go very well, but I got my money back at least. But it was an experience, investing. The fund I invested in was called BRIC. It was Brazil, Russia, India, China. And the bank put the money in to various, parts of their economy. And then it went down, it went up and down. And when it recovered, I sold it without losing any money. I gained a little bit of money from that. And then I tried investing in stocks, and I gained some money on some stocks and lost on some others and got some experience. But once you have some money, I think the most important thing is spread the money out. Put some of it in a savings account, put some of it in stocks, put some of it in, if you have enough money, eventually put some money in some land, property, housing, something like that. Spread it out so that you don't lose it all at once suddenly and ruin your financial situation. This is called diversifying. Right? Diversifying means different, right? And all of these things together that you have is a portfolio. It's an investment portfolio. So you want a diverse investment portfolio, which means you have your money spread out in different things, but obviously you need to keep track of it. You can use your computer, you can use a book, you can use an accounting book, but write down your spending and your saving and keep track carefully of where your money is going, and then you will be able to control yourself, and your budget will be, you won't have so much stress, and you'll be able to enjoy things that require money. I'm not saying money is the only important thing in the world, but certainly financial skill is very important from high school onward, when you start to have to manage your money yourself, wherever that money is coming from. You should learn how to use it and control it so that you can improve your quality of life. I think there might be a few questions about this. I hope so. And I'll be ready for them when we have class next Monday. So that's it for the financial discussion today. I hope this helped in some aspect your understanding of managing money. And midterms are over, so take a break, enjoy the beautiful weather, and I'll see you on Monday. Take care.